Rassie, congratulations on the book you've written with David O'Sullivan, Stories of Life and Rugby. Do you ever think you'd write a book?
No, man, yeah, I really wasn't even somebody who read a lot of books, and certainly not about somebody's personal life. So no, I was surprised that I agreed in the beginning, and then as we got along, I was just getting more excited. I think David really did a fine job in managing me also.
So in the preface of the book, there's a quote that says, "People think that they know me, and they form their own opinions of me. To be honest, a lot of the public opinion about me is way off the mark. I may come across as a loudmouth, opinionated, arrogant, unrepentant, that I'm not very serious, like I enjoy to jaw a little too much." And your argument, and I think that what you're doing in this book is showing people a different side of Rassie Erasmus.
Yeah, I don't think I necessarily want to show them a better side. I just want to show them that, listen, because of my job, there's certain things that I have to do, and certain things that I have to do to make sure the team, the head coach, and the Springboks in South African rugby are all right. But then there's also things that I do as a normal person, and I think I would like people to know that if you're good in something, and it's rugby specific, which is something a little bit big in South Africa for some reason, it's not to say that you're a perfect person or a loudmouth person. And I think the way David got that out of me, not that I wanted to win people over, I just wanted people to understand that just a normal next door person who has some mistakes and is not this out there person, actually a little bit private.
Yeah. So there's a few things in the book that I picked up, a few threads. So the one is how you always speak about how you just this little boy from Dispatch. And when you were growing up, all you wanted to do was play rugby for Dispatch. But you're also very candid and you're very open about your upbringing. You speak about your father and how difficult your father was. But you also speak a lot in the book about embarrassment and how you don't want to be embarrassed.
Yeah. I think embarrassment for me, I've said to a few people today, is embarrassment I feel which you can't control is probably the worst embarrassment. If you have an illness or if you somebody who struggles with whatever, or you maybe not as rich as other people, or maybe you stutter, whatever the case may be. I think that's the worst embarrassment that there is. It is something out of your control. I think if you make a mistake, you do something stupid, sometimes you have to take it on the chin. And for me, I think I had to explain that side of things, because I think some things in the rugby which I encountered later, which was something like transformation, they used to call it quotas, or it's just getting the political things out in South Africa. I think if I didn't have that understanding of what embarrassment really mean, I wouldn't have succeeded fixing some of that.
And then the book is also, it's a lacquer book full of rugby stories, which is really nice as well. So you tell stories about your own playing, but then you tell stories about how you were playing golf on the Wanderers golf course and Doc Lates called you off and lured you from Bloem to Joburg. But what I find so interesting also is you speak about how you became so involved in the analysis of the game. How you look at these VHS recordings and you bought yourself a software program. And you say that I like outthinking the opposition, outpassing, outplanning them. Is that what rugby's always been about for you?
I'm actually nervous to say it, but I think that's what life has always been about for me. It's a weird and bad thing, maybe, or maybe a good thing to say, I'm not sure. But I think when you're from Dispatch, which is a great town, I think you'll see if the people who read the book, I love Dispatch. But then you went to the army. You were the young guy between all the other guys that degrees and stuff like that. Then after that, you go and you try to make Free State under 20, but they from Paul Roos Gymnasium often. And then when you coach the Free State, you don't have the budget. So you always had to make a plan. It almost feel like you always had to make another plan, because you just didn't have all maybe the resources or background or high performance programs or money or whatever the case may be. So I think you got to learn that skill, and eventually I think that is one of the things that still today still satisfies me a lot when something works, especially when we plan it together as a team.
Because that's really been a defining feature of how you coach. You've always been innovative. You think about the disco lights when you were at the Cheetahs, and you always try and do things a bit differently. Has that always been your ethos as a coach, that you focus on the culture, but also about thinking a little bit differently?
The ethos is not to think differently. The ethos is to listen. If something really works, well, don't do it differently. But if we're doing something and it's flipping not working, like the Cheetahs for 29 years, we haven't won the Curry Cup, but everybody loves us. Do we just want everybody to love us, or we're going to try something different now, like buying a few players and not playing this beautiful running game, but maybe win a trophy? So it's always, I think, calculated, but there's definitely some bugger ups that I made which didn't work.
What's the biggest bugger up?
The biggest bugger up is probably when I was coaching, when I had an injury and I was coach for the Vodacom Cup team, and we didn't have one of our players got injured, and I decided to play, but I had another 4 or 5 months, and I thought I'll get through this game, and then I just extended my injury with another year.
So that's the biggest bugger up, but you also speak about what you think your greatest achievement is.
Yeah.
And you say that the EPD pathway is what you are most proud of. And what's interesting is people who aren't rugby people probably don't know what the EPD pathway is or was. And it's so important because when you look at the success of the 2019 Springbok team winning the Rugby World Cup, a lot of that was because of the work that you and Jacques Minnaar did with the EPD pathway in the years before that.
Yeah, and not just me and Jacques, but I must mention Herman Masimla, Nico Serfontein, Luke, and all of the managers that's involved there. It's something like we just have something that we launched 2 years ago. It's elite coaches. It's a fast tracking of black elite coaches who haven't been exposed to. And people will look at a program in the beginning and think, this is one of those window dressing things again. But if you don't start to think long term a little bit, you wanna fix things at the top, but then there isn't a pipeline, and then sometimes you get it right sporadically. But if you have a program like that in place, and you've got great managers running it, and it isn't transformation in the sense that it's like people see in South Africa, white out, black in, and you see it as change and giving.
It's genuine transformation.
It's genuine change. It's genuine change without nailing anybody. And if people go and read the book, How the EPD System Works, you'll see it's so fair on every level. And even the fast tracking of the elite black coaches now, it's coaches who's done it. They've got the qualifications, they got the pedigree, they just never had the exposure to media, to senior players challenging them, and all of those things. We've got an industrial psychologist to help us with that. I think the graduation is now on Monday of some of those coaches. And again, we won't reap the rewards tomorrow, but I think in 4 or 5 years' time, some of those coaches will be coaching URC rugby.
So you speak about genuine transformation and what the EPD pathway did. And when you decided to appoint Kolisi as the Springbok captain, a lot of people thought it was a window dressing exercise. And you explained in the book the process where you said, well, he was just playing the best rugby of his career. He was the Stormers captain. He was a loose forward. He ticked all the boxes. You didn't think about it as a window dressing exercise.
Yeah, somebody just asked me on an interview, and it's David probably asked me 10 times, and David said, but surely you should have realized. And again, I'm not somebody who was politically aware of a lot of things. Of course, I know there was problems, but I just did not know how to pick a captain as window dressing and look that guy in the eye and say, listen here, you're the captain here because you're a black guy, and we have never had a black captain. I actually only realized when we announced the team. I don't care if people believe this or not, because I know this is the truth. And it's simple. That was the captain of the best playing franchise. It was Kolisi. Who was playing on a plane number 6? Kolisi. And the other captains was a guy like Dwayne van Meulen. He was in contention. Eben was injured, and Warren Whiteley was injured. So I only appointed Sia for those first 3 test matches, and then I realized when we appointed him, wow, okay, this is something big. And then he got some momentum from there, and I would have hated it if I appointed him for political reasons.
Then, of course, you won the World Cup in 2019 with a genuinely transformed team. And you say in the book that when you look back after the World Cup final, you thought about the moments when you doubted yourself, when people thought that you were arrogant and presumed that you knew better than other people. How important was that victory for you? Was it just about the rugby?
No, I'll tell you, the sad thing was, even after the World Cup, I was thinking a lot about this. Even if we lost in the Wales Test match in the semi-final, all the things that we did and tried to do was genuine and was honest and was there for the right reasons. It was actually so nerve-wracking and sad. And even a couple of months after that, every now and then I got, what if we lost that Wales Test match? People wouldn't have believed it. People wouldn't have believed that it's true, that it's real, that it's real change. It's positive. It's included. So it's actually it's nerve-wracking to think that it was this close. It was 3 points in that Wales Test match. The English Test match was a little bit easier. So no, it's actually sad that it was so close not to being real.
And then what people didn't realize was that in the run-up to the World Cup, you were diagnosed, or a few months before, you were diagnosed with an autoimmune disease. And I don't think anyone really realized, only when you read the book do you fully appreciate what you were going through personally and how difficult it was for you. Was it important for you to explain that to people, to understand how difficult it was, going behind the scenes of the World Cup and what you personally were enduring?
No, I don't think for them to understand how tough it was for me. I think one of the things, as I say again, is sometimes when one makes a comment, just in general life, you sometimes say something to somebody and you don't know the full context, and you might embarrass that person just because you think that might have been something you say in jest, but it might really hurt that person. So it was actually to tell people that when you make judgment, or when you say something or assume something, or just think out loud. Just sometimes think twice, because I definitely don't want people to feel sorry for me that I went through a tough time. But there were certainly times when your confidence took a knock, and you stood in front of people, and you would hear comments, and you take it with the job. But I think sometimes I just think a little bit further. About the person.
People thought that you were jolling or living the good life, and you were actually on cortisone, and that's why you picked up a couple of kilograms. That kind of stuff.
Yeah, small things like that. I mean, and I understand that. I even said to the players, the first meeting we had, and because I saw the guys who were looking, what's going on here. I said to them straight up, and a few of them just laughed and thought, yeah, it was a joke. And afterward, they came and said, how serious is it, and those kind of things. But again, it's just to sometimes, boys, it's normal people. It's people who's got normal problems, people who's got normal, see them as that. And I think that should be the thing, that should be the hope thing. Not people, all of us can play Springbok. Not all of us can become Springbok coaches. But all of us are normal, and all of us can be good in whatever we do. We're just lucky to do it in rugby, and rugby is something that's pretty big in South Africa.
And there's this great story that you tell about, a story that your dad told you about the crabs in a bucket.
Yeah.
And about how if a crab gets pulled down, there must be a South African crab. So was there a little bit of that after you won the World Cup where people started pulling you down?
I think from I was appointed, people were really suspicious, like why I came back only after 18 months at Munster, and that's why the book, I think, kind of explained it. It couldn't have been something that I planned. I couldn't take my whole family, and so I think people will understand that was definitely not the plan. I think, I think because rugby is such a big thing in South Africa, and there's not a lot of people who get the privilege of being involved either on a coaching or playing. There's only been 900 Springboks in the history of the game. I don't know how many head coaches and support staff and so on. So I think it's something that people really wants to be involved with. So we kind of understand that as long as it's not lies that they tell, then it's okay. People can be sometimes a little bit nasty. We take that with the good.
And of course, you deal with the big controversy, right? The water boy stuff, the leak of the video. And you say in the book, I did not leak that video categorically. I would never have leaked that video. I had nothing to gain from it. And then you do say on reflection, you probably would still make that video. After the leak, you gained nothing and you lost a lot. Did you feel like this was your chance to explain to people why you made the video and how you didn't leak the video?
I think in the whole book, one of the things, a lot of South African people, or as my dad explained to me, as you rightly say, so rugby is something that some people see it a certain way and it can never change. Like to have a director of rugby in South Africa, people don't understand it. Why is there a director of rugby? What's he doing? But because rugby is such a big thing in South Africa, for a coach to handle all the other things, political things, a lot of important people want to be part of it and have opinions, and is out there and talk about it. For a coach to handle all of that stuff, but think about the next line out or scrum and so on, is almost impossible. So, as a director of rugby, my main job is for the team and the coaches to concentrate on the main thing, which is rugby. When I was the coach, my main job was to do the main thing. But as director of rugby, my main job is to make sure that all distractions and fairness and everything goes to that team. And I think if people go and read the book, they'll understand where I come from and why I did certain things. And yes, without a doubt, I did not leak that video. And I definitely don't think I've gained more support by somebody leaking that video. I definitely don't think people...
But you'd make the video again.
For the reasons for those referees which I send it to understand how serious we are before the second test match, before the Lions series. Yes, for that reason, I will make the video again, so they would realize. But for somebody to leak it after that, I mean, that would just be stupid to do it, and then after you get the response from the referees, and then leak it anyway, it would just be stupid.
Do you think that you've changed the way that that referees are viewed, or that coaches speak about referees in light of the whole Sexton issue and all of that stuff as well?
Oh, no, I don't think I would have an influence on the way Johnny Sexton behaves on the field. I think what I can tell you is that we've certainly, and going back to when you point fingers, four is pointing back at yourself, three. And I must say, when I had a chat to Nigel Owens, when we wanted to get somebody on board helping us, handling with the referees, I did some proper reflection on myself and the whole embarrassment things. Even though you're right, I just think the communication structures wasn't in place in that Lions series where we could communicate and get answers forwards and backwards. And by that video leaking, it surely was an embarrassment for some people, and the same for me. So we've totally relooked how we tackle and communicate with referees. And I had good meetings with the CEO of World Rugby, with the director of rugby, and I think our relationship is where we want it to be currently.
So you speak about reflection. Now that you've written the book, at the end of the book, you say that you take great pride in watching how rugby has changed in South Africa, from being supported by a minority people to a sport embraced by all of its people. And rugby really has changed in South Africa, and you have also played a role in that.
Yeah, I've been part of it since 1994. So there's been some bad times, as I said in the book, where I was not a good team man. So I think, I definitely played my part in some of the bad times, in some of the average times, in some of the successful times. But I do think the team is now at a place where, if we lose, there will always be a lot of critical people, and understandably so. But I think the way we operate as a team and what we stand for and how we pick our team and how we try to represent and what we say and how we do things, I do think we've got a lot of people behind us. And the way, if we can keep it like that, and I'm out of the game in 2 or 3 years' time, and whatever I do, it'd be wonderful to see that just continue. I think that would be a dream.
Rassie Erasmus, thank you so much.
Thank you, Mandy.
Good to see you.
Thank you.